Hey, welcome to Short Box Talks. I'm Jarrett.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Donald.
Today we're going to talk about just number ones, people. Just deal with it. Kevin, you want to start off?
Well, the number one issues I've brought today, I have Infinity Gauntlet number 1, Luke Cage number 1.
That's Luke Cage number 1, or what is that? Well, it looks like more than Luke Cage.
Well, let's be
one.
more specific. It's Luke Cage, Hero for Hire number 1.
There we go.
Yes.
A key book, as the kids say,
Yes.
that are 60 years old.
And Jared has been trying to steal it from me for quite some time.
And today will be the day.
For like a half an hour.
Like a half an hour. But this, of course, is probably the most vintage one that I brought today.
It's a nice looking book.
Beautiful book.
Very good looking book. In fact, Kevin has decided to donate that to the Donald's Possible Children's Society. That's where I have kids out there that I'm not sure I know of.
Half a dozen, I'm sure.
Probably. In case they come a knocking, I'll have that for possible investment purposes.
Dude, sell this. There's a Netflix show.
Indeed.
Now get out of my house.
Now, I went to a comic book shop here before... Right when the series was announced on Netflix for Luke Cage.
Mm.
And before that, before the Netflix series was announced, that book was going for probably like maybe $10, $20, something like that. It usually, $40, I would say at the most. It wasn't a very expensive book. It was just one of those, 70s books that have been just hanging around forever.
Mm.
And people would just... Oh, well, I want the first appearance of, let's say, Wolverine or something. And somebody's like, well, I have the first appearance of Sabretooth. Well, I'll trade you, and I'll throw in first appearance of Luke Cage. That was kind of one of those books. It was just always under the radar. And I went to a comic shop right when it was announced, and I was looking at the issues, and I saw it up on the shelf, and I was like, curious how much that costs, and they pulled it down for me. And they said, "Oh, well, that's $400."
Wow!
And I went, "Oh, wow, okay." So it went from 40 to 400 in the span of a Netflix mention.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back here after after Comic-Con here actually, which was in July. Mm-hmm. And they had another issue. I don't know if it was the same one or not, but I went in there and I looked, and the price on that, it was $1,000.
You gotta be kidding me.
I kid you not. So, boys and girls, the lesson is...
strike where the iron's hot.
Yeah.
If you have something in your soul stirring, saying, man, I really want to get that book, but you know what, do I really want to invest $20? Invest that $20, because you might regret it.
Well, one of the fun things, I know Donald and I do this now, is it's kind of like... playing the stock market of like you kind of go and
You
speculate, exactly. You speculate of like, hey, this character could definitely have a show. I mean, pretty much to me, it all boils down to Guardians of the Galaxy because, like I've said before, nobody. If you asked any comic book fan a year before that movie came out, if they'd ever make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and two, if it would be a smash hit success and people would be dressing up as Rocket Raccoon. I would say, nah, you're fucking crazy.
Or even better, that Groot would become a super popular character.
Right. More popular than any of them, actually.
Right.
Exactly. Especially Baby Groot.
The thing of it is, too, is you didn't know which Guardians they were going to pull from, or if they were going to pull from the 90s run of the Guardians, or if they were going to pull from it was a bit of the late 80s, early 90s run, I guess you could say. Or they were pulling from the newest run, which was by Lanning and Abnett, right? Yeah. So those two guys... And it ends up they pulled from the Abnett and Lanning run, which is...
With a little old school with the Yondu. Not that he was part of the team, but Yondu.
It's funny because that first Guardians I found at an annual free comic book day thing. And they do this every May. It's the first Saturday or second Saturday?
I want to say the first Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's the first Saturday in every May. They do this thing called Free Comic Book Day. Where basically almost every comic book shop participates. You go in and you get some free comic books, and they're usually new books that were printed out specifically for the shop. What we don't know oftentimes or think about is that these comic books they have to be purchased by the comic book store. They're not given out for free by the publisher. They're given out at an extreme discount by the publisher, but they're not free. So the comic shop's already taking a loss. And what they do then to try and offset that is they have sales, sales on figures and statues and stuff like that. Well, this particular shop had quarter boxes, and for a quarter, I got the Abnett and Lanning run, the issue 1
Jesus.
of Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think
Wow.
I got issue 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 or 5. I got all those for like a quarter piece, and I didn't even want them. They were just like, all right, I'm at $6.75 right now. I need to get to 7. Okay,
Right.
I'll grab this book. It's a number 1. I'll read it, see if I like it or whatever. And now it's at least an easy $100 to $300 book, I would say.
Yeah. So Kevin, out of your number ones, is there anyone you want to
Discuss.
talk about? Yeah, discuss why you chose it, or
Going back in time here, my memory's pretty fresh with the Infinity Gauntlet number 1 issue.
yeah, but they'll never do anything with that storyline.
Well,
wait, never mind.
Maybe in the year 2030 or so. Well, let's not kid ourselves. We know that in the year 2018 and 2019, we'll be seeing the Avengers Infinity War films, and obviously they're going to be extrapolating a good part of the story into the movie.
Who's going to be directing? Is it the Russo brothers?
Yes, they are, the Russo brothers.
From the Captain America
Captain
films,
America.
right?
Well, the 2 and 3 to be just
2 and
precise.
3, right?
And I was nervous, like, with the mention of that, because I'd only seen Captain America 2, and as good as it is, and it's probably...
Winter Soldier's awesome.
It's my single favorite Marvel movie out of
awesome.
the bunch. But Captain America 3 is up there pretty high for me, and particularly because of the way they handled the action.
And all those characters.
They knocked it out of the park.
All of these characters, and they really crushed it. Whedon could not hang on to that magic from the first one, the first Avengers, into the second one, but that's primary interference from Marvel, or at least that's the way it seems. So I'm wondering if having 2 guys saying no instead of just Whedon saying no, if that is like going to be a better thing for a huge bankable type crossover storyline like this,
Which has the potential to make, Star Wars, Titanic, Avatar type money if it's done correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, to me, the Russo brothers struck gold because, I mean, obviously, I would say first and foremost, they're extremely talented and they can handle, they know story very well. But they also got lucky because they got, with Civil War especially, the culmination of all the stuff that was set up forever in all these other movies.
It's made it a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, to finally get to, and they had so much to play, like in the sandbox to play with in one movie. They get Black Panther, they get Spider-Man, and then they even get fun stuff like Ant-Man becoming Giant Man and shit like that.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was the shit.
And what's cool is you can tell these guys are, I guess they're fanboys. They appreciate what they're working with. They respect the source material. You can tell they had passion for what they were doing, and it shows on the screen, and that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Hail Hydra. Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra.
Yep. So about this issue that you have in front of us here, this Infinity Gauntlet.
This classic cover where you see Thanos in the middle holding that gauntlet, and you see other characters surrounding him. This is what Mr. George Perez, if I recalled.
Oh, George Perez, yes.
Did the artwork, and Jim Starlin.
Yeah, so the lines that are sparkling off looks like light refractions or something, right? That are coming off
from all the 6
the
gems.
Yeah.
And it's showing different just characters, different timelines. What's the explanation on this? Do you know?
I believe what it is just showing you, all the different characters that are going to be involved in the 6-issue series. It's showing potential events that could occur, from going forward. And after all, the title does say, "The end begins here."
Right. Yeah.
And for those who don't know, the Infinity Gauntlet, what came out? It was the Infinity Gauntlet, the Infinity War,
and then Infinity
Crusades.
Which, by the way, I have a funny feeling, and maybe I'm wrong about this. Obviously, we know the movie's called Infinity War, the first one. I feel the second one, since they said they're not going to call it Part 2, they'll probably call the second movie Infinity Crusade, which would make perfect sense, depending on how...
Possibly.
Who was the big character in Infinity Crusade? Was it not Warlock? Or?
Adam Warlock. No,
well,
Adam Warlock and the Magus, right?
The Magus. Well, yeah, the Magus and there was an Infinity War. And then, matter of fact, funny you mention it, I do have the first issue of Infinity War right here.
Oh, nice. And you have the first issue of...
Infinity Crusade.
Look at that. And I did not see these books. I just want that known. This was a
little surprise
completely
there for you?
surprise to me.
The first one's going to be called Infinity War, but I believe the second one will be called Infinity
It was
Crusade.
because it was originally going to be Infinity War Part 1 and
Part 2. So, but then they nixed that idea. So my guess, I'm just taking a wild guess, it would make sense to call the second one Infinity Crusade, especially, you know, in the first issue of Infinity Gauntlet, the comic book, Thanos kills off half the Marvel Universe, which is most people who know.
Say what?
Yes, he kills off half the Marvel Universe.
To impress Death.
Death, yeah, because matter of fact...
And what's the deal with Death? What's with him and Death? They're like boning each other?
No, not...
He
Death's
wants
to.
Death.
He wants to, but basically Death brings him back to life, essentially, to set him out on a mission to eliminate half of life in the universe, because I guess she feels that there's an imbalance of some sort between people who are alive and people who are dead. So Thanos, with the Infinity Gauntlet, he has Mephisto hanging out with him.
She's pulling a kind of a Ra's al Ghul type thing where, you know, it's like the world's overpopulated. We need to strike half this down.
Yeah.
And I'm totally blanking. Death talks, right? Does Death talk?
No.
He's always just having monologues like at her.
Yeah, she's basically a
in
silent.
his head, though, right? Like he's crazy.
He's crazy.
So he hears her in his head, though, right?
So he believes.
Yeah.
I mean, she's there, and she basically uses her body language to give him a signal. Like, what's kind of interesting about the book is about this issue. He's always trying to, get him
to woo her. He's courting her.
He's trying to court her. You know, almost like like a regular man trying to court a woman.
Yeah.
And he's trying everything possible to get her affection, and she just keeps blowing him off. You know, one of her minions keeps telling him, explaining to him what's going on and what's going
Sounds
on.
like my high school years.
Sounds your high school years.
Yeah.
So you're saying that most women are like Death in that respect? Is that what you're trying to say?
I think most women might equal Death to some men.
I see.
Depending on how girl crazy they are.
Mm-hmm.
I've met a few guys that would, I'll just kill myself right now if you don't tell me you love me.
Man's ruin. Man's ruin. That's what they call him.
Yep. It's like ghosts of Christmas past and come back to haunt us.
I see.
So I'm looking at this Infinity War cover, and I'm noticing the Black Knight in the back here.
Yes, he's way in the back.
So maybe we get a appearance in the movie. Maybe. Also, I see Quasar here.
I could totally see Quasar or some form of Quasar coming up in the Guardians too. I would love that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Would be awesome.
Nova
would be awesome.
Nova or Quasar or both. Just like bottom line, like once again, if you could make Drax and all these other guys.
This is a wraparound cover,
Yeah,
gentlemen. I'm looking at the Infinity War book. Oh my God,
the sweet 90s, the sweet 90s,
Holy
baby.
crap.
Look at that.
Oh, it's a huge wraparound.
Pull
Folds
out, yeah.
The sweet 90s.
So look, we got the other guy, Thunderstrike, right?
Eric Masterson or something
Yeah,
like that?
that's him. And U.S. Agent back there. We got Sasquatch. Alpha Flight then has to be, has some involvement.
Darkhawk.
Good old Darkhawk.
Speedball right next to Darkhawk.
Oh.
Doctor Strange, of course, which anybody that's seen the movie will know that's...
and he plays a
or read
pivotal
the book.
part. He plays a pivotal role in the series.
And on the back, did I see, what was it? What's his name? Scarlet Spider-Man? Yeah. No, that's Alpha Flight guy.
Yeah, Alpha Flight guy.
Weapon Alpha or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Who's Wild Child, actually.
Yeah, Scarlet Spider story doesn't happen yet. This came out in 92. Scarlet
okay.
Spider happened like a couple years later.
And then there's Moon Knight, which is odd to me that, first of all, that I guess that Black Knight, Moon Knight, Daredevil, I mean, these guys are street level dudes, you know?
So they'd be like cannon fodder for Thanos.
Well, there's a rumor
Right.
that some of those street level heroes might make a cameo in the Infinity War movie. Rumor has it. It's
But what are they
possible.
gonna? The best use, or speaking of like street level heroes in a galactic battle. Speaking of Galactus, was that Fantastic Four story? I think it was 243, where Galactus comes to Earth to eat Earth, and it's a Fantastic Four, Thor, Doctor Strange going against him, and Daredevil and Spider-Man are like chilling on a building nearby watching, and they're like, should we do something? And they're like, I think I was like, Daredevil was like, what, we can't do anything. Like, let's just watch and like see, help out if we can. But yeah, we can't do anything. Like, it was the best, like, just admitting,
they're spectating.
Yeah, they knew their limits. And obviously these guys on the cover don't know their goddamn limits. And they need to back off.
Now, although I will say, like, if they treated the Black Knight in the movies like they would treat from the Justice League cartoon, what's the Shining Knight?
Mm-hmm.
In that, I could see him competing with the big boys.
Give him some, like, mystical quality. Well, he did have, like, a whole kind of... His sword was... His
yeah.
ebony blade was like, enchanted.
Extremely powerful,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's just a great all-around character.
What this is in reference to is Donald and I are part of a Facebook group called the Super Palookas, where it's a group of us and we just talk shit about comics, and an issue about how cool or not cool the Black Knight is came up, and Donald is definitely on the cool side of the Black Knight. I've always been a fan of the Black Knight, especially in his like 90s, 80s Avengers run.
Did you collect any of the issues?
I collected. I liked him. One of my favorite Avengers stories is Siege, where not Siege. I think they called it Under Siege later when the Masters of Evil break into the X Mansion, and oh my God, the Avengers Mansion. Too many mansions. And Black Knight was on the team then, so that's where I kind of got introduced to him, and I dug him. Which of these two? Let's go
with the Foot Killer.
Yeah, all right. Not the Foot Killer. I'm gonna go with the.
He's bound to strike down Odin.
Yeah. One of the, to me, the most underappreciated series and stories and characters, and I'm like a cult of my own, although there's some people in there, is a character named the Fool Killer, who was originally introduced in Man-Thing, and it's kind of like this legacy that's been passed down of pretty much a person who decides that the world has people in it that are fools, and we could do without them. So it's kind of like extreme. It's even more extreme than the Punisher in a sense, because the Punisher, he's more specific. He's got criminals he's going after. He's got the scum of the earth, drug dealers, and all this stuff like that. But Fool Killer, you could be a person who just cuts people off in traffic, and if he deems you a fool, he has this gun that pretty much turns you to ash. So it's
vaporizes you.
Everything's final.
LA traffic, beware.
Right, exactly. Oh, he would go nuts. So he's kind of like a serial killer, but a vigilante serial killer. But the legacy has been passed down several times. But the one that I wanted to talk about today was, and the character was created by Steve Gerber, who he created a lot of Howard the Duck, and a lot of kind of cool, like, obscure characters of the 70s.
What's he up to these days, by the way?
I think he passed away.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No!
Yeah, but
he passed away after he was writing a series called Hard Times.
Hard Times. It was a prison one
for DC, and he'd passed away.
But I always enjoyed his writing, and I didn't realize how much I loved his stuff until I realized how much he'd created that I'd been reading. But so Fool Killer came out in the 90s, and the covers were always pretty dark, and it was a Marvel series, so I was always pretty. I remember it was issue 5 that first got me, because it was Fool Killer, who the original Fool Killer has this kind of swashbuckling, almost like Zorro meets a pirate outfit. It's really ridiculous. But this new Fool Killer had what would eventually become a gimp mask. So he had this creepy like leather mask, and then he would just wear a vest and like leather pants, and he was it sounds like a bondage thing, but and I guess it kind of did have a little bit of that, but the character, so the Fool Killer #1 of the 90s edition, written by Steve Gerber as well. You have, I believe his name was Kurt Gearhart. He's this banking and loans guy. He works in a loan office, total just in Manhattan, and he's a total just kind of straight-laced, hard-working guy. He's got a wife, but it opens with him, his wife, and him are at a funeral for his dad, who was just killed in a mugging. And so he goes into a depression, and he loses his job. He eventually loses his wife, and he's just at the end of his rope, and he's just does not understand the violence that took his father, or he's just fed up with it. And so he's pretty much lost everything. And then one night he watches kind of like what is almost like a Maury Povich show. I think the guy was named like Runyon Moody or whatever, and he has on one of the original Fool Killers, who's in a mental institution. I think his name was Greg Salinger, and he. This new guy, Kurt, is just he's infatuated with the message that this guy is saying, because it was actually some smart stuff. It wasn't just lunacy. What got him in the mental institution was the fact that he was vaporizing people. So long story short, in this first issue, he and this was funny. It's a total dated book. It's like when email, chat rooms, and all that stuff was brand new. But the Kurt Gearhart guy, the loan salesman guy, he contacts Salinger in the mental institution, and they kind of have this secret back and forth, and what ends up happening is Salinger is pretty much like, I think you could be the next Fool Killer, and he sends him to like a vacant storage unit where the gun is and the original outfit is. And that's kind of where we leave off in I believe the first 2 issues. But I could not recommend the series enough. It was just so well written. To me, it was always like Taxi Driver meets the Marvel Universe. And if I had my luck, I would fucking write a Netflix series for this, even if it's just a one-off.
I was gonna say 20-something years ago, maybe 25 years ago. It looks like Michael Douglas could have played this character. Was it we did Falling Down?
Oh my god, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I'm the Fool Killer.
Yeah.
And I'm falling down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It says here that his psychopathic. By the way, I'm looking at the Marvel
The Bible there,
encyclopedia, updated and expanded, of course. Sometimes you can trust him, sometimes not, so be careful.
Mm-hmm.
But it says here that his psychopathic energy gave him greater strength and endurance than an average man.
What?
So basically, he just... They're trying to say because he was nuts, he was stronger than most, which I guess, in a way, makes sense, because you don't have that ability in you to hold back. You know how, like, if you're going to go punch somebody in the face, you think about the ramifications. Well, if you're a psychopath, you probably don't.
Yep.
I've got psycho energy.
Right, you have psycho energy.
Psycho strength.
It also says here that he has a calling card that he would warn his victims they had 24 hours to live and told them to use their time wisely.
Right.
That's kind of effed up. Right
Yeah.
there.
Oh, he was good. Well, the opening page in this book, it says it's got the old fool killer. He's in like a dream he's talking about to his doctor at the mental institution, and it says, "Live a poem or die a fool." So he had this really extreme nature about But the thing that was cool about the guy that takes over for him, the Gearhart character, is that it's almost like a Batman Year One thing, except dirtier and seedier. Like, he goes out in the Fool Killer outfit, and he's like, all right, here I go. And he's got no training whatsoever. And he goes to, like, a crack house, and he ends up just getting the shit kicked out of him. He, like, falls out a window, and I think he shoots, like, one guy, like, luckily or something like that, and just runs away, and he's like, all right, I gotta kind of train myself a little.
Does sound primed for a Netflix series.
Yeah, it's so...
And guess what? We bring it up, I have the perfect theme song for it. Who writes that song? Psycho Killer!
Oh, the Talking Heads.
Yeah.
Talking Heads, that'd be a perfect theme song for it.
That'd be a good song, yeah. So definitely check out Fool Killer, the '90s series. It was a 10-issue run. Super. Could not recommend it more. Mr. Donald.
All right, I'm gonna go a little less Marvel, a little more DC.
All right.
My issue, it's actually technically a #1 issue, but not a #1 issue. Back in the 90s, mid-90s, the DC Comics did this 0 hour where they basically reset the whole universe. They were like, look, we screwed up when we did Crisis in Time or whatever it was, and we need to fix this. There's a lot of loose ends, and
which is something they would continue to do
For
forever.
years to come.
and currently as well.
52, yep.
So they came up with this 0 hour thing, and part of the reboot was this comic book I have before me called Rebels, and it's called Rebels 94 because that's the year it came out, and they always labeled the year of the book. Now, this is an offshoot of a comic called Legion. Not Legion of the superheroes, just Legion. When dealing with Rebels, Rebels stood for Revolutionary Elite Brigade to eradicate Legion supremacy. So
That's awesome.
basically, I saw this, like, this was Firefly before there was Firefly for
Right.
me. This was a group of people that belong to Legion, that are on the run from Legion. Basically, the leader of this group of rebels is Vril Dox. Now, Vril Dox is the son of a guy that some of you might recognize. His name is Brainiac.
Right.
Now, he was the...
the Superman Brainiac?
Brainiac, yeah. So that Brainiac, like, had, like, some type of organic material sex and created this progeny, this son, Vril Dox. And Vril is super smart, just like his daddy, highly intelligent, human, you know, or as close to human as you can get. I mean, he's organic. And he formed and led this group of interplanetary peacekeepers called Legion. Basically a police force for hire. We'll come in and take care of your planet, and we'll police your planet. Kind of like mercenaries.
Now, was that Legion anything to do with the Legion of Superheroes, or was it just its own
own thing?
Okay.
I believe it was created by Keith Giffen.
Okay.
And he created it and left it, and Mark Waid took over and did some writing for a little bit. And there was another guy, and then there was... Tom Pierre, I believe was his name. But
did Legion end and then Rebels started, or were they simultaneously going?
Well, what happened was at the end of mid-Legion, Vril had a on-again, off-again girl, wife, lady, lover, whatever you want to call her.
Special lady friend, man.
Right, a special lady friend, and her name was Stealth. And her species, when they were horny, would just basically attack you, would ravage you, and if you lived, so be it. If not, then, it was kind of like a praying mantis thing. It would just kill you off.
Wow.
So she had such rough sex with Vril that she ended up killing him. And they were like, "Oh,
it's
shit!"
the best superhero way to go.
Yeah, he's dead by sex. So they took his body, cloned it, and put his brains in that clone. And then she went off into the woods, into the wild, literally to have the child. So when she brings back this child's an infant, but is highly intelligent. Mm-hmm. He can barely hold up his neck, but he could tell you the meaning of life. He's so intelligent.
Right.
He sees his father as a threat to him and his mother's love. Mm-hmm. And so there he frames his father for, I think it was for murder and for trying to upset the Legion code and all that Legion stood for. And he uses this technology that he's created to brainwash everybody on Legion, except for a small few, to try to imprison, incarcerate, and or kill his father.
Oh, wow.
So his father escapes along with a band of ragtag heroes, and I use the term heroes loosely. Strata would be one of them. That's basically his brute force girl. Not much on looks, but she does look like a big rock lord, basically. And
that's a girl?
Yeah, that's
awesome.
a girl. And she has a boyfriend, Borb. Yeah, I know it's a ridiculous name. Stealth's in there as well.
See Lobo?
Also, yeah, the big bad boy of them all, the Bastich Lobo, is part of this.
That's awesome.
And it's amazing. Like, this story starts out with them basically just on the run from Legion, and they've stolen a ship that runs literally on brain power. So he has to stay plugged into this ship, and it's a sentient kind of ship. Strong and, tough as nails, but not much on firepower capabilities. So when they get into type of situations, it's, they gotta run. So basically the whole story, the whole premise behind this is that they're trying to undo the damage that his infant child has done, destroy the brainwashing mechanism in order to relinquish control of Legion so Vril and his ragtag band can go back in and upsert his son and then become the rightful ruler of Legion. Things happen along its way and stuff, and it's I won't spoil it for anybody that really wants to read it, and I cannot recommend this book highly enough. Of course, Legion itself, I believe, was a 70-issue run.
Right.
So going through that's going to take some time.
By the way, Legion stands for Licensed Extra-Governmental Interstellar Operatives Network.
Yeah,
Well, that was my second guess.
Yeah, see why I didn't remember that? But yeah, it's a great story, and it's an unsung gem that people in this day and age that are dealing with tyrants and brainwashing and things. This kind of speaks volumes to fighting back. And
Well, you sold me on it. I just love the idea too of I just picture the crime scene of Real Doc's getting fucked to death, and he's just all over the walls. But yet somebody was like, we can still clone him. Like, let's just scoop up a little of this fucked to death Real Docs and make a new one.
Yeah,
I think that was really nice of whoever did that.
And this issue 0 was part of the run for 0 Hour, which re-premiered all their comic books under a 0 issue, which kind of rebooted and told you the backstory of it in the issue while kind of forwarding the story a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think pound for pound they did a good job with doing that. But some things changed in the universe, like Dr. Fate became I think he was just Fate.
Right.
And instead of being all like doctorly and scholarly, he was this grunt like field guy with a butcher knife and a mullet.
Oh yeah, but you know what? Jeff Johns did it justice, and he had him killed like right in the beginning of when he did his run on JSA.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, he had him like immediately murdered.
It was him and Kid Eternity too, right?
Yeah.
Kid Eternity.
Yeah.
He either bit it or was close to biting it.
I feel bad for this Vril Drox character because his father is a bad guy and pretty much probably hates him, and then his son.
Well,
hates
don't
him.
get me wrong. Vril is not a good man either. He's a better man.
Yes,
But he's still not a good man. He's
but he has some redeeming qualities at least.
he does have some redeeming
And
qualities.
so did Stalin. Stalin made a really good chicken pot pie, from what I heard.
Oh, I did not
Actually, I
know
don't know that at all. That's
Oh, okay.
just fake history. I'm lying
Wow.
my ass off.
Speaking of politics, you got any other books over there
that. Oh, let's see here.
you want to briefly mention?
I think you can mention this one. You know, you're familiar with that.
Oh, Batman, the New 52, #1,
Yes.
written by Scott Snyder,
Yes.
art by Greg Capullo,
Yes, sir.
and what's this? Ah, here's a gem now. Okay,
There you go.
This is my world here. Resurrection Man #1,
New 52.
New 52 version, not the original '90s run, granted, but
Pick that shit up though too.
yeah, and in fact, don't start on the New 52 Resurrection Man unless you've read the '90s, and I only say that because it's not that you can't separate the stories, and you can. If you've never read the original, you'll still get a great story out of the New 52. But the originals, you can find them for a quarter a piece usually. Mm-hmm. Much like that Rebels and Legion run I'm telling you about. In fact, I collected every single issue of Legion and Rebels, and I don't think I paid more than 50 cents for any issue.
Right.
So it's well worth it.
It's also the exact, I think, same creative team for the New 52 Resurrection Man as it was for the original.
It is,
So-
yes. In fact, the same cats that did the Guardians of the Galaxy run
Yeah.
that we were
Thanos,
talking about.
And he also the recently Thanos Imperator from a few years ago as
Yeah,
well.
Right.
Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning.
Yeah.
And Resurrection Man is basically this dude that comes back to life.
Mitch Shelley?
Yes, Mitch Shelley. He doesn't remember who he is.
Right.
He doesn't remember why he's where he's at. You know, all he knows is that, oh shit, he's got some type of superpower.
Right.
Now, eventually he runs along somebody, and somebody's there. You know, there's some government corporation or whatever that's after him, and he gets killed.
Right.
Immediately or almost immediately, he comes back to life. And when he
Only.
comes back to life, he comes back with a power that's different than what he had when he was killed.
And that's the setup completely for. I mean, like that. So every time he dies, unintentionally or intentionally, sometimes. I remember in the first series they were like, it was a hitman.
Yeah.
It was just. It's so bad. It's like a panel of him just shooting him in the head and then going, "What power do you got?" And he's like, "I can create pretty butterflies." And he's like, "Bam!"
Yep.
He's like, "What can you do now?"
And the thing of it is that each time he got killed, he would come back with a power that would protect him from what killed him.
The
Right.
last time around, yeah.
Which is kind of, you know, the cart before the horse kind of scenario
Right.
there, you know. But
Could have
it's-
used this second ago.
Right, like you would want a power that could generate and figure out what you're going to be killed by to protect you from being killed. But this was bass backwards. It just kind of, you know, popped up afterwards. But it's a great run.
And I forget, what are those two lovely lady villains called?
Body doubles.
The body doubles are
Yes.
chasing
Yeah.
after him.
Oh man, and not to advertise my own Blue Beetle web series, but I did create a Ted Cord Blue Beetle web series, and in it I did put the body doubles.
Oh, really?
These two girls that hunt down.
They're psychopathic, like just awesomely written women.
Yes.
Just- but
Kick-ass.
completely psycho.
Which, by the way, this would also make a wonderful TV series.
Oh,
man.
Resurrection Man would be. Yeah, some of them I'm like, how have you not touched these
Yeah,
things?
I mean, like, we should do, like, a package deal when we advertise or
No.
try to present our... We'll say, be like, we've got Full
Pitch it.
Killer,
Yeah.
we've got
All right,
Legion,
Netflix. Yeah,
Rebels.
we'll meet with the Netflix
Or
guys
even
and then the
better,
CW
Amazon.
people. Oh, and Amazon, yeah.
Well, if we're doing DC, it's probably smarter to do Amazon.
Exactly.
And if we're doing Marvel,
Netflix.
Netflix it is. What other ones did you bring? Just
I got. This is another kind of random one, but it's actually prevalent because the character is now the main villain in the current season of Arrow. But I don't know if it's this version. I keep hearing different things. But this is New Year's Evil #1 from the pages of JLA, Prometheus. And this was the first appearance of the character of Prometheus, who is a villain who I think is so under... I mean, they're kind of giving him... They've kind of brought him back and gave him some more cred, but he made such a cool debut. He was created by Grant Morrison, and I'm 50-50 on Grant Morrison. I love his JLA run.
yeah.
But then some of his stuff just goes super, like he did too many ayahuasca trips and just like acid trips, and he gets really out there, and it's great writing. It's just not my cup of tea.
Batman Incorporated.
Right.
Right. Oh my god, yeah. But then he does something like Happy, which is a little, I think it was like a 4-part Image miniseries, which was just phenomenal.
Well, that's the thing. He can do straight ahead. I mean, his JLA run was so cool. It totally reinvigorated my love for the Justice League and even DC Comics at that time, because he took all the big characters, which, you know, at that point were so played out or boring, and he made them like a really solid team. He gave them like cool villains, and one of them was Prometheus, and Prometheus was just a guy. And if you look, and what's cool about this New Year's Evil story is it's his origin, and his origin is pretty much the antithesis to, or the complete polar opposite of Batman. Instead of, it starts off with he's in a room and he's talking to this kid who won a contest. I think his name was Retro, his superhero name, and he was just a kid who came up with this character. He was like, you won a free trip to the Watchtower, to the JLA, and you get to be a member for a day. And Prometheus has this kid in his house, and he's like, yeah, I won a contest for villains, and it's total bullshit. He's just a psychopath, and he's toying with this kid because he's eventually going to steal his identity to go into the Watchtower. But in relaying his origin, pretty much his parents are like, if you ever saw Natural Born Killers, they're like Mickey and Mallory Knox. They're like psychopathic spree killers, and they're just all going all over the United States, or the DC United States, whatever, blowing people away, and he's loving it. Like, he loves his parents, and he thinks they're the coolest. And they end up getting killed in a shootout with the cops. So instead of, whereas like Batman is Bruce Wayne, he sees his parents get murdered by a criminal and swears he's going to uphold justice, he's going to fight for justice. Prometheus is like, I'm going to fight for what pretty much is he's going to fight against justice, because he thinks because justice took his family from him, who he loved, and his hair as a kid goes white, and then he follows almost the same Bruce Wayne lifestyle. He goes and he studies in the best schools. He has a lot of money that his parents and the underworld kept for him. He gets skilled in like all these kinds of different ways of fighting, but then it gets really weird. He finds these monks who live on top of, like, you know, somewhere in Tibet, but they're evil monks. So not even nice monks. They're evil monks, and they live on top of this alien ship, or like a dead alien.
Of course.
Yeah. And one of the monks gives him this key, and he calls it's like the ghost key. He goes to the ghost world. So he goes to this limbo world. Prometheus kills the monk, and it becomes the crooked house in the crooked world. It's like this own little limbo world that he can send people to, that he lives in.
Yeah,
and then
it's like a house that's habitated by him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like his own little secret headquarters. Then also he gets super into technology, and he creates this helmet. This is the coolest part. It's totally the Matrix, but he gets this helmet that he puts in like a little tiny mini disc into the helmet, and whatever is stored on that disc, he can get that knowledge instantly. So he can learn fighting styles, he can learn any knowledge he needs to know. So he becomes a super criminal.
So he's kind of like the Taskmaster.
He's the Taskmaster, and he's Batman. Like, evil Batman. Yeah, he's fucking awesome. Like, I love Prometheus.
That's a good combination.
And his debut, so like this is his origin, and then at the end he ends up killing Retro, downloading all his mental, the way he moves, everything about him, so he can pretend he's this kid. He goes up to the Watchtower and dons his Prometheus outfit and continues and goes through the whole Justice League, and has a weakness for all of them because he's studied them, and he shoots John Jones with a dart that makes it so he can't form anything solid, so he's just like a pile of goo. Mm-hmm. He beats the shit out of Batman in like 2 seconds because he's got way more fighting styles than Batman that he's downloaded into his brain. He makes the Flash go. He tells the Flash that there's bombs all over the Watchtower, and he's going to set them off right now. So the Flash is running around the Watchtower, trying to what's the word I'm looking for? Trying to turn off these bombs, deactivate, and then he realizes he can't beat Superman in any kind of fashion. So he goes on the mental level, and he says, I'm going to kill everybody on this Watchtower because there's all these media people there to watch the JLA member for a day thing. I'm going to kill them all unless you kill yourself. So Superman's about to kill himself. The only thing that saves him, and it was kind of like we were talking earlier about that Fantastic Four issue,
right?
Is he didn't know that Catwoman was chilling in the Watchtower that day because she's a villain, you know, and he didn't expect her to be there. And I think she cracks a whip at his balls, they kind of insinuate, and just fucks him up, and then Steel, who was incapacitated too, takes that moment and like gets a hold of his helmet and like deactivates it too. And pretty much the only reason he got defeated that day was because he didn't have any plan for Catwoman.
So I wonder, do you think this character Prometheus would make a good Justice League villain in one of the movies coming up?
I think he'd be. Well, I mean, they're using him in. They're using a Prometheus and Arrow right now, and the way they're doing him right now, he's kind of this mystery character who's killing everybody, and he's really dangerous. They haven't said if he's this Prometheus yet, and it doesn't seem like. Because this Prometheus alone would just fuck up Arrow, I think, like pretty fast.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah.
But they did do a story called Cry for Justice that James Robinson wrote, because what they did is they realized I think they had this cool character. Then Grant Morrison left, or no, he used him again, and he kind of like he joined up with Luthor and some other people, and then they did this thing where it's like they made him so stupid, and then they tried to correct that by saying like, oh, that was somebody disguised as Prometheus.
Yeah.
And then the real Prometheus killed that Prometheus. And then he was the one who was responsible in the Cry for Justice for like blowing off whose arm? Roy's arm, I think. Speedy Arsenal.
Oh yeah.
Blows off his arm.
So try to do a little cover up there.
Yeah, but then they ended it with Green Arrow, I think, putting an arrow through his head.
Yeah, they killed him off.
They kill him off, but then I don't know what happened with the New 52, and I don't know what happened with Rebirth.
He was not. I don't think he's ever been mentioned in the New 52.
Really?
Not to my knowledge.
Well,
I can be wrong. But I don't remember him in Rebirth. I don't think he's been mentioned at all either.
Really?
He's just been kind of in limbo, and I've always wondered,
right,
when are they going to bring back this badass? Because he's basically, if you read what was that comic that they did where Dibney's wife.
Oh, Identity Crisis.
Yes, thank you. Identity Crisis. They kind of did with Prometheus what they did with Deathstroke in Identity Crisis. They made Deathstroke. They made him the badass again. Mm-hmm. Like Wintergreen, I think was his name, and he was always Slade Wilson's right hand man. Mm-hmm. And in the comic Identity Crisis, he pulls his head out of a fucking bag, and he's like, here's Wintergreen, now you know I don't give a fuck. I killed my own man. And you're like, whoa, what
happened to this guy?
Oh my god, Deathstroke just took it up a level.
Yeah.
And then, like, he just takes on the entire Justice League right there and systematically defeats them. And is only taken down, I think, by Green Arrow shooting him in the eye.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even shooting him. I think he's like up close and he just jams an arrow in an eye.
Yeah.
In his already blind eye, so it just went into a hole, which is so brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So things got pretty serious, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Things got crazy. So Prometheus to me is too close to Deathstroke in that manner,
right?
That they would want to bring him in around the same time. It just wouldn't make sense,
right?
Because they're bringing Deathstroke in. He's coming into the Batman
movies, right.
And they said they're going to mention him in Justice League, as far as I know. So probably Prometheus, we won't see him in film for a while. But
by the way, who's the actor who's playing Deathstroke again?
What's his face from True Blood?
The werewolf guy, Mangello, Joe Mangello.
Yeah, Joe. Yes,
or Mangello, something like that.
Yeah. He's a beefy looking dude. I think he can pull it off.
Oh, physically, yeah, he's perfect for it.
He's got some acting chops too. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, you don't need to. So maybe one more.
Yeah, sure. Well, I have two here. I'll just mention them both and then discuss one a little more, just a little bit. But I have I brought Camelot 3000.
All right.
Which these are trades. I do have most of the single issues of Camelot 3000, but finding them in my short boxes is just impossible right now.
Just bear with us. There were number ones involved.
Yeah. And Airboy Archives Volume 1, which I have every single issue. I bought them when I was a kid for 10 cents a piece. So I got a 50-issue run for $5 from my favorite comic shop, Grackle Flint Comics. They no longer exist, so it's an empty plug. But I salute you guys. I'll never forget you as far as bringing forth my love of comics. But I think out of the two of these, Camelot 3000 might be a little more relevant right now. And that's just basically... yeah, I mean, if you just read the opening page to this story.
Really awesome art, by the way.
Let me get there. Oh, yeah, the art's done by Brian Bolland.
Can't go wrong there.
No, I mean, there's no better cover artist than Brian Bolland. Even Alex Ross, to me, can take a back seat to Brian Bolin. And I'm sorry, Alex. I know you're very talented, but I think Brian's got you here. It starts off with a little poem by T.S. Eliot. And it says, "This is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper." It starts out in London, England, in the year 3000. And it has they're occupied, the city is occupied by aliens. There's an alien occupation. And we see this character, and we see the whole thing through the eyes of this character named Tom. And Tom is trying to get his mom and dad out of England. And the aliens basically blow up his floating car, killing his mom and dad. He escapes, and he runs into kind of the woods, but not really. It's where there would have been woods. But it's a historical dig site, and he goes into this historical dig site where he works, or did work, and he's trying to hide from the aliens, and he accidentally unearths the tomb of King Arthur.
Oh, wow.
Now, King Arthur, when he unearths it, King Arthur's just in there chilling, just kind of sleeping. And he wakes up, and he's like, "Yo, what's up? I'm King Arthur. Hey."
And he's from Brooklyn?
Yeah, he's from Brooklyn, obviously. But no, he, basically kicks the ass of these aliens, and, Tom's like, "Oh, my God. Here's our hero. Here's our savior." So you're looking at occupation by some alien invaders into the city, but also worldwide. And now there is hope in King Arthur. And King Arthur then goes to find Merlin. He goes, of course, Merlin is chilling in Stonehenge, so he has to revive him there. Because that's where the portholes are.
So all these guys have been asleep for like 2,000 years, essentially?
Yeah, essentially, something like that. A long, long time. But the interesting thing happens is where when Merlin sends out this, awaken type spell,
Right.
and it awakens some of the Knights of Camelot.
Oh, nice.
And in doing that, it awakens them in reincarnated bodies, in people that are currently alive.
Oh, wow.
So, one lady is the leader of some police force, and they're not good people. But she realizes she's Guinevere, and she's like, "Oh my God, my king!" And she runs to his side. And then,
do they remember anything about their old lives? Or
the spell hits them, but they have to have something to kind of waken them up.
Right.
So they send Guinevere, Arthur, I think Guinevere, Arthur, Tom. And Merlin all go out to kind of try to refresh their memories. Like, "Hey, stupid, you know who you are?" And one of them is Perseus. And Perseus, Percival, I'm sorry. It's a different story.
I was like, wait, Clash of the Titans?
Yeah, so Percival, he is going to be changed. He's in this pit, and he's being, just as he's awoken by Guinevere to realize who he is, he gets changed into a Neo-Man. And a Neo-Man is basically like a zombie type brute.
Right.
Like a mutant. And he's changed into that, and it's like, oh my God, it's over. He'll never... But because of that spell, he still retained who he is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so then basically now they have him in this big brutish...
He's like a Frankenstein.
Mutant Frankenstein form. And another cool...
I'm sorry,
Frankenstein's monster.
I am so sorry.
Oh, we all know what you
finger.
meant. It's fine.
I'll cut off a finger.
I'll let it slide. And the other one that I thought was really cool was Tristan. Tristan is changed into a body of a woman.
Oh,
so
cool.
He's having this gender crisis
issue
of, oh my God, what if my girl, Isolde, comes back and, I am a woman. Obviously we can't be together because I am a woman.
Well,
and she is a woman.
Things are different now.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, this was written in, what was this written in? 80-something? Yeah, 85, 83. 83 through 84 and 85.
So 33 years ago.
Yeah, so this was in a time where, it wasn't exactly accepted.
Well, definitely in a comic book, they weren't going to just go balls out with that.
Right. But
or vaginas out.
It has a lot of notes and tones of a lot of things that have happened in the world lately and, over time. And I think it's important to look at comics as not only...
Based a reflection of... A mirror, a reflection of what the times we're living in.
Right, as we're looking back at the times that they were living in then, but as a reminder of how good we have it now and how we want to keep it
And progress.
good and progress as people.
Well, I think that will conclude our short box talks today. So yeah, check out those books we talked about. And I'm Jarrett.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Donald.
And we'll see you at the comic book shops.